This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. It's a week in review of May 28th, 2022. We've been tinkering with how we put the show together. So we're going to start off, Phil. We're just going to dive right into it, right? We don't need any preamble. What is everybody talking about this week? You pulled up a good one. I was actually thinking about this a couple hours ago.
Yeah, there were a few things going on. A lot of it Star Wars related. The Star Wars convention took place over this past week. And so a lot of news was coming out about new Disney Plus shows and stuff like that. But one of the parks-related tidbits that came out is that they have said they will be having new Star Wars characters coming to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, specifically mentioning Disneyland at this point. But what it means is they will be abandoning, to some extent, the strict timeline that they have set for Galaxy's Edge, which currently was set to be in between episodes 7 and 8. But now they said they will have other characters. So the ones they've specifically mentioned are they will have Boba Fett and Fennec Shan have already appeared. They're also going to have the Mandalorian and Grogu. So we know that takes place earlier. So
I don't think anybody dislikes this. I mean, you're walking through a park. I mean, the land itself is themed because you've got Rise, but you've got Millennium Falcon, and if you just close your eyes, that could be any time for Millennium Falcon, right? So I'm all about it. I'm not also surprised that because they were going to put Mandalorian and Grogu in the parks somehow, and why not put it in Galaxy's Edge? Have you seen any negative feedback from it?
Not tons. I've seen a few people that are kind of just, they appreciated that Disney kind of went all in, making it more of a strict timeline and immersion and stuff like that. And so they're kind of a little bummed, but for the most part, they said, well, I'm glad I got to experience it. And now I knew this was going to happen. So it is what it is. I've seen probably more people anxious that it's so far only at Disneyland, not at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, but are people really excited to be immersed? Immersive? That is definitely not it. Immersed in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge as that timeline. Is anybody really excited about
I don't know if it was
7 and 8 timeline?
They wanted that specific timeline, but just that it felt more immersive because it was at a specific time, and the cast members there seemed to, in the past, be more into it with using the language and stuff like that.
We got to pay for that now.
Right. Well, at least in Florida you do, apparently.
The Star Cruiser.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I would like to see them do more with Galaxy's Edge. We're going to see a little bit with the Magic Band Plus stuff, so that you might be able to get your immersion there, I suppose. Yeah. But everybody was talking about it, and we haven't decided how we're going to do our Kenobi show. I'm going to talk to you about that offline, because I have thoughts. I have thoughts. I did say to somebody it was the best Star Wars in the last 40 years. I thought. I'll just leave it at that. Maybe we'll have a bonus show before episode 3 comes out. It's Wednesday, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. So we have 2 days to think about that. I want to welcome 2 new members to the Discord family. We've got. I totally forgot to look at it. It was Mike Kisco Falls _RR and Mets fan. One of them, I believe, is a friend of yours. Is that correct, Phil?
Correct. Yes, Mike is a friend of ours who we should be having on the show shortly. He recently went to Walt Disney World as part of his daughter had a music thing down there, so he's going to go through how is it traveling with a school group where you don't really get to make any of the plans.
So that should be definitely interesting. He'll be on next week, and we'll kind of get to. I don't know if this is going to be a horror story for us, Phil, because we're usually in the driver's seat when it comes to our Disney trips. We know where we're going step by step, and we can change rather than being in a group of, 20 other people, 10 other people. I don't know how big the group of people they went to, but not controlling anything. It'd be So then I know that's kind of.
Well, the good thing is they had a really good time, and he messaged me afterwards. He's like, "I think we got the bug. We're going to be
okay.
So,
well, then that's a good thing. Then
it is possible to still have a good time at Walt Disney World.
I guess that is true. DCI this week, very little updates. I think we've only had a couple adjustments that he makes, Matt makes from time to time. We're still sitting at about 85.5%. So no
the
big
one
changes
interesting
there.
thing that is now that with Guardians open, he actually gave that a bonus versus what was there before. So the attractions are actually over 100%.
Yeah, they're like at 101.4.
So if you were comparing it to 2019 and attractions are your focus, there's actually more attractions to do now than there were pre-COVID.
Yep. So that was bound to happen because Disney was never not going to build attractions, I guess.
Hopefully.
Yes. Well, there you go. So that's kind of stable. We're still waiting for a lot of the other things that probably this is going to take a big jump forward by end of summer, if I had to guess. I think are we still on target for like plus? What was Matt's prediction at the beginning of the year? Up to 95% by the end of the year.
He was above that. He was like maybe even 98 or so, or maybe that was his optimistic take. But
we'll
we were
back
around
to the
95, I think. Yeah.
We'll have to go back to the tape. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so our top 5 list. So this is our clickbait title of the week. We've got a bunch of these, but today we had a Star Wars based one, but we're going to save that for next week. But today we're going to talk about 5 specific things you want to remove from Walt Disney World. Now, we both did not know what the other person's put on their list to make this more fun. I gave myself some rules. I don't know if you had these rules, Phil, in mind, because
I had a few specific things I said I wouldn't do. Like I said, I couldn't vote like they will stop charging admission. Like,
well, yes,
completely unrealistic things. But
remove all
that,
money aspects from Walt Disney World.
And no crowds.
Here's the things I put up because they were too easy to list. If I just listed these things, because this has just been the topic of the shows for like the last 5 months, right?
Sure.
So I said no Tomorrowland removals because that's kind of too easy. No Dino Land removals because that was just a part of the discussion from last week. No Genie Plus augments type of thing because again, I think that's just easy to talk about and it doesn't make it interesting. And much like no cost related stuff like get rid of parking fees or stuff like that. That's again too easy. No calls for removing reservations and no calls for removing like changing the hopping time or removing that. Again, things that we've already complained about and I think would make least interesting list. So I don't have these ordered. So let's go back and forth with this one. So what is the first one on your list?
So the first thing that came to mind, and I don't know exactly how this would be enforced or whatever, but I would like to see gone from Disney World is poor etiquette during fireworks. So somehow make it, I'm thinking in some of the international parks, everyone like just sits down and is calm. There's no like pushing and shoving and stuff like that. So I don't know how it would be enforceable, but that's the first thing that came to mind of like, here's what I would like gone is that super stressed and part where my kids were crying because of how other guests were behaving. Fireworks.
I could see how that could be something you definitely want to get rid of. I mean, I've never had too many issues with it. I mean, I've always just carried 2 of my kids like this, and I've got like sweating and shaking by the end of everything. But I found some good spots. If anybody's interested, they're still there. Obviously, maybe not obviously yet, but you know how you've got on the hub. If you want to be close to the castle, you have those fenced-in areas, and there's a garbage can in the corner of each one. The pavement is slightly elevated by about 2 or 3 inches because it's a grade going down from the pavement. And if you get yourself up where maybe the trash can's to your right, the fence is right behind you. You're about 2 or 3 inches above everybody that's on the pavement. So you get that slight bonus of being able to that. And if you don't mind, you could bring a blanket or whatever and sit on top of the garbage can with your kids. Or have your kids sit on top of the garbage can and get up. That's the only time I've done that twice, and it's worked each time. So it's not as stressful. But you have to be all the way up at the castle, and then you have to wait for everything to clear.
All right, so maybe I'll make it so you don't have to have your kids sit on garbage cans
and
enjoy the fireworks.
No, I totally get. I mean, like here I am working within, but like yes, the firework viewing is incredibly anxiety driven for people who don't like crowds and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm totally with you on that one. The first one for me was kind of a selfish one, I guess, because I know people have memories tied to this building, but I'd like to get rid of the Chinese theater facade for the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Interesting.
I would, because to me, it no longer fits the park, right? The park was like Hollywood, right? It's no longer about Hollywood specific. It's more about movies and the movie lands. At least that's where it's trending, right? to me, putting Mickey in there, like that building doesn't scream Mickey, and they kind of forced it to be a premiere of a movie, and that's why you're lined up to go in there. I personally would like make it like a big train station or a big actual train that kind of wraps around the building and just kind of have it big and grand. That's kind of how I always thought it would be really cool. You walk up down and you just see like a big train station or iconic thing right in front of you. What do you think? Am I crazy, or is that because everybody loves like the Great Movie Ride, right? So I know they're nostalgic for that.
Yeah, I get the thought, especially knowing the future of Hollywood studios. I guess I still feel like there's a place for classic Hollywood between there and Sunset Boulevard and stuff like that, and it kind of fits in with that. And obviously, some historical Disney movies premiered in the Mann's Chinese Theater and stuff like that, so it does have a Disney connection. So I get the thinking that like it's not really. Like what is they use the Tower of Terror, right, as the icon because there isn't like that central thing. So making something that would be more of an icon to Disney, not something that represents something else, I definitely think makes sense. It wouldn't make my top 5 list, but
I mean, these are the first 5 things that kind of popped in my mind as I started thinking, is this a good one? Maybe not, but like because it goes back to just the point that you made that the Tower of Terror is really not a good icon for the park because it's not a Disney property. It's Twilight Zone. I mean, not that it isn't a good or a bad ride type of thing, but it's off to the side. Yes, you can see it because it's a very tall structure from outside the park, but with the park being straight shot, and that's the first thing that you see as you kind of walk into the park, so to speak. I would love that for that to be kind of the icon, just like it is in every other park. Tree of Life, Spaceship Earth, etc. So that's kind of where I was kind of leaning towards that. I wish there was more of like a boom as you walk up into the park. So those are my thoughts. So what's your number 2, sir?
So I feel like a lot of the ones I wound up putting down were things that were not part of your rules.
That's fine.
But I put park hopping limitations.
Okay.
I think it's just very frustrating to not be able to park hop until 2 p.m. And I'm going to live with park reservations. I know they're going to
those aren't going anywhere.
But if I have park hopping, let me just go between the parks where I want, or at least don't make me check in at the one at 2 p.m. just to turn around and go somewhere else. Or let me hop at 11 or 12. I can't imagine there's that many people that would be doing it.
Here's back up. Why were people having to go into the first park and then to go to like wherever they wanted to hop? Why wouldn't they just reserve? Or they just can't get a reservation, so they're just waiting to get.
I mean,
into the park?
that's sometimes that's what happens is that people really want to get somewhere else, and then they can't get the reservation, so they have park hopping, so they reserve it for the other one, and they walk in and walk out. Probably more often is, and we were talking about this with your trip coming up where you're trying to hop to all the parks. And if you can't make that second park until 2 p.m., now you have to fit in the other 3 parks a little harder after that. And if you feel like you got done what you wanted to in a park and you're just kind of stuck there for a bit. So I don't know. It just feels there's a lot of limitations. Some I think I can live with. That one just feels a little silly. And if I'm paying extra for park hopping, then having these restrictions on top of
it's kind of tough.
A little tough.
I'm hoping that they kind of reduce that, go from like 2 to maybe 12, but I haven't heard any rumors or anything out there that might say that they're going to change that 2 o'clock timing. But yeah, when we're doing our 4-park day, it's just like the one we're doing it. We're going out to lunch because I assume that we're not going to have anything else to do in Animal Kingdom for like the last couple hours. So let's go have some bread service at Sanaa or something else like that. But like, yeah, I'm down with you on that one. I still don't know why there's a limitation on that. It just forces people that are in parks to stay in parks. So as they're getting ready to leave, they're not in any queues anymore at that point because they're getting ready. So they're creating crowds, which is what they were trying to avoid years ago. And they are what was the other point I was trying to make? Now you're making an influx of people at 2 o'clock at all the parks, which is typically just Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios that people are usually hopping to. So now there's huge crowds at each one of those parks, which is something you wanted to avoid when you were at, during the height of the pandemic. So I never understood why Disney kind of put those into effect in the first place. I know why they totally took it away. I never got the 2 o'clock thing though. So
yeah.
Okay, second one for me is I'm kind of breaking my rules a little bit because we haven't talked about this in over a year and a half on the podcast. I want to get rid of the Liberty Square Riverboat.
Okay.
We talked about this. Len yelled at me on the show, and I just think I don't know why people are nostalgic for it or really want it. I mean, it's cool. It's dynamic in the park. I get that. It's really fun to see going past, but it uses so much room in the parks that it could be placed for higher capacity attractions at Magic Kingdom, which needs it tremendously. And you could already see what happens when they start tucking rides in different parts, like Tron, where it's kind of tucked in the back. We still don't know how it's going to look when you have to walk to it. So it's kind of, hidden behind some buildings type of thing. So I think that area would be really cool to build out Liberty Square or build out Adventureland a little bit more. I don't know. Am I
I think you're a little crazy.
Okay, that's fine.
One. I mean, I think there's, we still are supposedly have the blessing of size. So I think there's room behind the Rivers of America where you could do stuff. And I just think we need more things that add kinetic energy to the park, not fewer. I remember when I was a kid and there were so many, there were like street performers going on and like stunt shows and stuff in Frontierland, and that no longer takes place. So I think having that, I get your idea that maybe even do something more with Tom Sawyer Island and have an easier way to get there and stuff like that. But I would keep the riverboat.
I'm not saying whatever you put there is just a building that you walk into for a ride either, right? Like you could add stuff with, having kinetic energy in that area. But the steamboat to me is just like, it's too much wasted space. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people actually go on it. A lot of people don't use the space in Tom Sawyer Island. Yeah. So it seems like they've got this big thing on a track and it's not used as much as another attraction in that area. I'm being greedy. I'm just thinking like, let's get more people spread out and more things because Magic Kingdom needs the capacity. I don't know. All right. What is your number 3? Right. We're on number 3 for you.
Yeah. So, I want to remove Lightning Lane or Fast Pass, whatever you want to call it, from rides that don't need it. So like Omnivuva rides, Pirates, like all those things, like a lot few. I get the idea for some of these big attractions. You want to be able to skip the line and you want to charge people to skip the line and stuff like that. But so many rides by having 2 lines to get on it just messes up the flow, messes up how many people can get through. And I wish it would go back to more of the original intent when Fast Pass was first introduced and there were like 5 rides that had it. Sure. So, really those continual loader type rides, Small World, things like that really don't need it. Flow would be a lot better and there'd be more rides that were easier to get on and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, forget about Small World, but like Haunted Mansion, Peter Pan, and Mermaid to be exact. Like you just literally you walk onto a moving platform and jump on, right? If there's one line feeding it, the line leading up to it be constantly moving, which is what we want, right?
Exactly.
Because when I went during last year, the first time during the pandemic, it was slow as anything. Or even when it was getting a little bit busier towards the popping time, the attractions that were like that, there was like a 30-minute wait, but it never seemed bad because you were constantly just moving through the line, and then you got on there. You weren't standing around in the heat of the day, kind of like, "Come on, let's go." So I'm down with that. But you would that's a whole Lightning Lane issue, like because Lightning Lane needs capacity to create worth, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you go about making that valuable? So now we're talking about accessibility and cost, right? Yeah. So you're going to kind of go down that route. But that might be a way to do it, right? So like you could charge money for it, but now it's almost like a multi-individual Lightning Lane type of thing. So you get your individual one for, let's say, Rise, but there's only 4 other rides on Genie Plus. So maybe half the people won't buy it because to them it's only a couple rides. So now it's a coupon thing rather than a service.
Well, I mean, and that's almost like how I look at it when I was like, do we get it for Animal Kingdom or something like that? Like there's really like 2 rides you need it for. And then you're just getting other stuff because there's nothing else to get it for. So why bother having those on there, right? Same thing with those quick loaders in Magic Kingdom.
I'm with you on that one. My number 3 was getting rid of Starbucks.
Oh, really?
I don't mind there being like, I want the bakery to be the bakery again, right? I wanted to like, I don't like it branded. I mean, I don't mind branding and, because Disney's always had cross branding inside the parks, right? So that I'm not worried about that. I just, for some reason, Starbucks screams corporate America to me for whatever. Not that Disney's not corporate America at this point, right? Because I know this totally makes no sense from a logical point of view. But in my own like immersive walking down Main Street and it's just Starbucks sitting right there, it kind of shatters that. I mean, we go through all the you go through all the trouble of getting Casey's with all the old sports memorabilia and everything else, and then you go across, well, not across the street, but down the street to Starbucks, and you're getting your latte, whatever. And to me, it just doesn't feel like it could be like a cool bakery. I mean, even like it's not like the confectionery is like, you know, a Hershey Park type of thing where it's all like Hershey and everything else. Another big brand. It's still like a candy store, so to speak.
Well, it's got M&M on it.
But you don't walk in, it's not screaming all that stuff, right? To me, Starbucks, it's screaming like this is not.
So would you be okay with Starbucks like elsewhere, or if it was more subtle with the branding? Like I totally get you're definitely not the only one saying I don't want the Main Street Bakery to say Starbucks. That has nothing to do with the turn of the century street.
Right. This is the only time I'm like I care about like the theming like in detail, right? I think it's just Main Street. I don't. You can have Starbucks anywhere else. Have it at Epcot. I don't really care. It's just that specific place.
But even if they had like a futuristic looking Starbucks in Tomorrowland or something like that, that'd be okay. Or
yes, I'm down with that. It's just, to me, it's just like I love Main Street. It's like a comfort blanket to me. And then when I see Starbucks, I immediately think rush hour, getting your coffee like at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
No, I definitely get that. Right? Like, especially because I know you always start like on Magic Kingdom's like your first park day and stuff like that. And the last thing you want is something reminding you of like your day job, right?
Yeah, exactly. It just takes me out of it a little bit because there's always a line, right? So it's like, this is the first line of the day. It's to get your cup of coffee. And typically I never do, but my wife likes a cup of coffee. And it's when you have the dining plan, it was really worth using that as your snack, right? Because you can get like a $10 coffee and use a snack credit for that. But yeah, it's more of like a theming thing. I don't mind Starbucks at all. It's just that I don't like it right there. Anywhere else would be fine. Just don't like it right there.
That I can get with.
Okay, cool. What's your number 4?
So I said get rid of Mission Space.
Okay. We're just deleting attractions right now. This is great.
I mean, obviously, I would assume I would hope they would replace it with something else. But I mean, just that attraction. I mean, the facade is really cool and space is a cool concept, but we never do it. Like, we just have no interest in it. I know so many people are like, well, we did it once, but never again. It makes people sick. And I don't know, just being in that capsule and pushing buttons, it just feels like it was pretty cool, I guess, at the time. But is it really something super inventive that you can't do anywhere else now? And I don't know. I just think there's much better attractions they could put in that space instead of it. And maybe I'm just being selfish because we never do it. But
I mean, I think you make that argument for a lot of things at Disney World, right? I'd get rid of Test Track before space.
Oh, interesting.
Only because everything else is space in that area of the park, right? So Test Track is just, you're just driving, you're testing your airbag and your brakes, right? Yeah. And then you have spaceships all over the other place. So for theming wise, I'm with you. I've never done Mission Space. I've never been able to do it. My kids have never been able to do it while we were over there. I'm contemplating going on it with the wife as we go down in 45 days or whenever it is. But I'm also worried because everybody talks about, because it spins, right? And you get that inertia and the gravity feeling to it. I don't do well with I don't do well with spinning. So I'm terrified that I'm going to waste a whole day feeling out of sorts because my innards got twisted around spinning and kind of doing that type of thing. So I don't know. But I'm with you. Anything that's going to improve Epcot with some modern rides and stuff like that, I'm totally down with that. Number 4 is something I've felt for a very long time.
Okay. All right.
I want to get rid of all the generic merch shops across property. I hate how you could go to Main Street and it's the same shop as you'll find anywhere else on property. I think I would love specific merch and specific locations. Mm-hmm. In today's day and age, you don't have to go to the parks anymore. I like being able to I don't mind shopping in the parks where you kind of, if you're waiting for somebody or there's a bathroom break and you're kind of just wandering across. Like, I love the Christmas shop, right? I think that's really awesome. If I wander into the big giant merch shop on Main Street, the Emporium, then I'm seeing the same stuff I'm going to see at Disney Springs. I'm going to see the same stuff I see at any other gift shop on property. I would be able to I'm going in here. What can I find? That's really cool. And I know that they did this because they wanted people finding all sorts of stuff. They didn't want to have people traveling all over the place to find that one Mickey plush or whatever it might be.
Right.
But now with the advent of everybody ordering everything online and getting it delivered, I think if they really want something, the people won't be offended. So here, you can order it online and we'll deliver it to your hotel room, or you could whatever, that type of thing. Because we did that in the past,
Right.
And but I want to be able to kind of wander around and kind of look at some new stuff. And there's a couple places on property that has like specific things, like some of the the rides have their own like merch or at the end, but it's the same merch that you could find at the Emporium, like the Winnie the Pooh, like all that stuff you could find on Main Street.
Yeah, I feel like the Emporium's the worst offender of that. And I think other areas are starting to get better. Like even the Creation Shop at Epcot, it has some stuff's generic, but it has a lot of like Epcot specific lines of merchandise and stuff like that. So I think they're getting better about it. But yeah, the Emporium definitely is like the catch-all for everything. So I kind of like your idea though, like, okay, we don't need to have this here because we could ship it to your room or something like use technology better rather than having to have all that show space full of fairly generic things.
I mean, and we know Disney could do it very well. I mean, you got Memento Mori, and you've got Pirates, right? And you've got Pandora. Those are cool shops, and I guarantee you, people probably buy more in those than this is just another shop with like Mickey Mouse plushes and.
Plus, if it's the only place you can get it, like you're going to get it then because you're like, I might not be back in this area. If you're like, oh, I can just pick this up maybe on Main Street later, and then you forget about it, and then you don't buy it or whatever.
But I'm also, but it's kind of more of a thing where you see it, you want to buy it. Even though I believe that you should be able to buy any of that stuff on Shop Disney anyway. Mm-hmm. But like if you see something that catches your eye because it's different, you're probably more likely to buy it because it's different. You didn't see it at 10 different other places.
100%. Yeah.
So I'm down with that. Are we on your number 5 now?
It is. I'm going back and forth because the one I put was get rid of Dinoland, which is what we talked about, and we're going to. So I'm trying to think of something else that I could put in there. One, technically, it's not around right now, but I would say get rid of permanently the dining plan.
Okay. Why do you say that? Why does that affect you? How does that affect you to get rid of it?
So obviously, I've been on record as saying we don't use it, but I think it resulted in. Like slimming down the menus a lot and making the menus less creative because now people were going and they wanted things they could eat and they had to have things that were more similarly priced because you couldn't have people spending different amount because it's got to fit within there and it's the restaurant's only getting as much as that credit is for them versus being more creative and having different food and charging for appropriately for those items. I also think it just further jacks up the food prices because then they can say, well, look at what the value you get with the dining plan. It's like, well, yeah, but that's only because the food prices go up and stuff like that.
I mean, like, I agree. I've heard this discussion before. I've always disagreed with it I think both things happen simultaneously, right? I think they're looking to cut down on food costs, so they're going to whatever that term is. I'm 0 for 2 today. They were going to make all those menus smaller and more generic. A lot of restaurants out there outside of Disney World across the country are doing that. They're reducing their menu to have 5 things, right? 1 or 2 appetizers, like in more of the fine dining space. So I think the menus would have been simplified anyway over time. Are they doing it, balancing it around a single price point? Is the dining plan the reason for that? I mean, I'd probably say it wouldn't be the main culprit of it. I think they would be looking to kind of solidify the pricing around so that you don't have outliers. Like on a menu, you have the $40 item, a bunch of $25 items, and then like 1 or 2 like $15 items. Yeah. I think they would look to kind of balance that because how often are you purchasing that $40 item, and what is the loss of having the ingredients for that $40 item if it's not being ordered on a consistent basis? By homogenizing, that's probably the word I was looking for, the pricing, it allows for more people to spread out your choices, so you're not having specific dishes not being made, as much or as little as they might have been. So I think from a restaurant operations point of view, I think that's the smart way to go when you have so many restaurants across property that you have to maintain and manage. So I would disagree with how that affects, because there's so many options. Like even if you wanted to go to other restaurants, you have the options of going to other restaurants that have their own theme of food. It's not like you're going to a diner and all of a sudden you can't order waffles or something else like that. I don't know.
I don't know. I've just seen over time like different things being removed from menus, and they're usually the more exotic, more expensive things. And obviously, just the restaurants get more full because people get the dining plan and they have to use them up, and that makes it harder to find ADRs and things like that. So
the ADR thing, I'm with you on that, right? I think the dining plan totally affected the ability of normal guest, average guest, not with the dining plan, finding options or have less flexibility on when they can eat and where they can eat. But from Disney's point of view, the more people with dining plans,
I totally get why
right?
Disney get it, and because it was filling up its tables that weren't getting filled and restaurants that weren't filling up, and I know a lot of people like it, so I guess I don't begrudge them. Just personally,
all right, well, let me throw this at you, Phil. When the dining plan comes back, or if the dining plan comes back, where you're going to be taking people out of the parks for sit-down meals, allowing rides to be at less capacity. How about that? The act as attractions, right? Be Our Guest being more populated, Cinderella's Royal Table, Crystal Palace, even though they're open at this point.
Yeah.
If they make them more attractive so they're full, they probably are full, I would have to imagine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this would be back in the day when they weren't filling, and that's why they came up with the dining plan, but now they don't need it. But
that's true.
This is back when they're open. I don't think everything's back to 100%.
Right. Of course.
Capacity yet.
Okay, so my number 5. That was a good one, Phil. That's a discussion you could probably have with like 2 or 3 people for like an hour, and you just start yelling at each other. We get the pro and the anti dining plan. My last one is I didn't know. I don't know if this counts because I want to get rid of something and replace something, right? With it, I want to get rid of all the regular water fountains at Walt Disney World and put the bottle filling stations with all of them. Because the only bottle filling station at Magic Kingdom is at I almost said Cosmic Rewind. What's the in Tomorrowland
Terrace? Oh, Cosmic Rays.
Cosmic Rays, thank you. I can never think of Cosmic Rays off the top of my head for whatever reason. That's the only place there's a bottle filling station because we travel with 5 water bottles that we constantly keep filled. They give us ice. We carry the big ones. But if you wanted to fill your water bottle, you're either asking for like 3 cups of water that you're kind of dumping in, or, you got the water fountain, hopefully has enough water pressure to go over so you can fill it, more than halfway. So I want to get rid of all those and put the things, because I don't think many people, who knows, but I think there's less people that are going into a water fountain, leaning down and drinking. They're either getting bottles of water or they're asking for cups of water anymore these days. So.
I think that's a great one. It's probably more of an addition than a removal, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I get to remove something though, so that's why I kind of fit it in there.
Well, yeah, I think it'd be great if they just added them to like where the soda fill area is at all the quick service restaurants.
Yep.
Because then you could just go in and use that. You don't have to get in line if all you want are those cups of water.
Yeah, I always
get in line for them and stuff like that.
I always hate walking up because I know they have to always give you a cup of water if you ask for it. I hate taking up their time in the place in line asking for, can I have a cup of water with ice? And usually the good ones have them all like lined up on a tray. They just have to pick them up and hand them to you. But I'd rather not have to bother anybody. Just go up there, fill up my water bottle and bounce and get back to where I'm doing. So I had a 6th one, Phil.
Okay.
That didn't really count because I don't know if this is really a thing that's a removal, so to speak. What made me thought about it is I thought I had seen, I'm pretty sure I saw that they're in August, they're putting back the hour of fireworks back to like 9 to 8 o'clock, I think I read, or I forget what time it was. They're changing it. And that got me thinking, and then it got me thinking about how you get kicked out of the park during Boo Bash early if you don't have a party ticket. I want the removal of early park hours, early closing hours for the parks, right? Yep. I think the fireworks show, regardless if it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, the park should be open for another 2 hours after that. Because typically everybody leaves, and I know they want to close it out with the fireworks show. It's nice. I think the park should always be open 1 or 2 hours after fireworks ends. Just to kind of, so you can have that late night. So you can go in at like 4 o'clock. You can ride some rides, see the fireworks, ride some more rides, and then go back. And that basically means keep the parks open till like 11 year-round almost, abouts. And I'm so angry that Epcot closes at 9 o'clock every single night. Like, to me, that's a park that should be open till like midnight.
I mean, we did this
right?
A few weeks ago. We were talking about ideal park hours.
Yep.
Like, 11 o'clock midnight for Epcot for sure.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So I kind of slipped, but I don't know if that's really removing anything other than just it's really adding hours to the park. So I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also, I guess maybe removing parties or stuff that really, because those are really extreme. Because then if you have a park day that day, you don't even get to see fireworks and stuff like that. So
I want to say that if Disney should do this, because it would probably cost them nothing. And actually, they would actually probably make money off of that. If you have a Magic Kingdom day reserved, and it's like a Boo Bash party where you have to be gone by 4:00. I think that ticket should
So not
automatically
Boo Bash, which was after.
so Mickey's Not So Scary.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Boo Bash is so much easier to say. I think that ticket should be a hopper. Right? So like Disney goes, okay, you have a Magic Kingdom reservation. We know it's not a full cost of ticket because we're cutting out 4 or 5 hours of your park time. You get to go to any other park, assuming that you leave the park at like any time after the 3:00 hour. Let's say.
Yeah.
So it's not like let's say they remove the hopper hours. And you're like,
I know. It's just saying we need to remove the hopper hours, but maybe in that scenario they have it, and you can't hop until 4 or something like that. Yeah.
But no, you have to. To me, it's you have to have exited the park. So as you leave, you have to flash your magic band on something, and that basically creates your ticket into a hopper. So you have to be leaving the park at like after between 2:30 and 4, right? So it has to be like, oh, I showed up in the morning. I don't typically go in the afternoon anyway to any parks. Now I get a free entry to any other park. Now you have to be quote unquote kicked out for it to function. I don't know. I think that's a good idea.
Or maybe it's like, I think, didn't we talk about that before, where you'd get messaged and say, would you like to be able to hop to Epcot? Or something or this way they could spread out the people too. They could say, you get to go to Hollywood Studios and you get to go to Epcot or whatever.
I mean, only Disney knows, but I wonder how many people, because actually, no, we probably know this already. The people that are being kicked out of the park, I hate saying kicked out because they probably know what time the park closes, but they're not converting them to party tickets because they're probably sold out by then anyway. Right?
Oh, at that point, yeah. I mean, some people probably came into the day with party tickets, but not day of. They're generally sold out for sure.
So where are they going to go spend more money? Whether you allow them to go to Epcot for dinner or Hollywood Studios, I mean, they're probably going to be spending more money rather than just going back to the resort and kind of hanging out, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless they go to Disney Springs, but then they might not even be going to a Disney restaurant, right, or whatever.
Well, I mean, like if you're going to Disney Springs, you're probably going to go anyway, right? Because you probably have dinner reservations, or you probably have your mindset on doing your shopping that evening, right? That was part of your plan. If you find out that you have to leave and you're wandering, I don't think people wander to Disney Springs,
right?
So I know what, that's a good question. We need to find out how many people have left early, either being surprised that they have to leave because they didn't read anything, or do they purposely buy a ticket and not go to the party, but they're okay with leaving at 4:00? What do they typically do with the rest of the day? Is that like,
maybe some people treat that as like their quote unquote half day, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll just go back and chill at the resort. We'll pool time and stuff like that, or what do they do with that day for sure?
I'm really curious.
Because usually those are lower crowded days because people know they're not getting a full day at Magic Kingdom. So sometimes people go be like slightly lower crowds, get a lot done, and then go back to the resort.
It's worth the dollars to get a less valued ticket, I guess. Okay, so that was a good top 5. I don't know if we've learned anything from each other. I think we've talked about all these things over time. If you have your own thing that you want to remove from Walt Disney World, shoot us a message on Discord or social media, and we'll kind of take a look at that. All right, now is the second week of the new section of Ask Me Anything. Phil, have you prepared for the Ask Me Anything?
I have prepared. I've spent hours studying and thinking. No, I've spent about 30 seconds thinking of something. But yes, I did think of something. So
that's good. Do you want to go first or second today?
I can go first if you want, because it kind of ties into a little bit with what I was talking about with the dining plan and stuff like that. So
good segue.
My question is just, I don't want to say, money's no option, but not getting bogged down in like, okay, are my kids Disney adults or not, and that sort of thing. Just if you could have one meal anywhere at Walt Disney World, what would it be?
One meal? I mean,
or what restaurant would you like love to get an ADR for your next family trip that you haven't done yet?
Family trip? So my kids
I was saying
included?
Family trip. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I mean this is a good one because I've got a hope. I mean, this is not a hard one, but I would do Hoop-de-Doo. Because we haven't done it before. It's a lot of fun. It's unlimited beer and cornbread, essentially. And that's a boring one because everybody wants to pick that one, right? Because that's a popular place to go. I think that's to me. I think that's like not a hard one to get, and it's a cheesy answer. But I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, there's other restaurants that haven't like Garden Grill or oh gosh, what's the restaurant on top of Contemporary?
California Grill.
California Grill. I always forget the second grill. name. But I think those are the other ones. If we're talking just family at this point, I mean, there's
okay. Well, how about when you're going with just your wife?
I mean, I'd love to do like Victorian Alberts or Chico, or I had another one. I mean, I would probably want to do, because the reservations were gone when I checked it. When I started thinking about like what do I want to do on the weekend night was the dinner at the top of the Contemporary to watch the fireworks, like the cocktail hour. I forget there's a specific name for it. I'm not very good with names tonight. That's fine. I was thinking about something like that, but I don't know. My wife and I have not been very big foodies in the last 2 years because of the pandemic. So a lot of our like eating habits have kind of like interest in that has kind of waned, and we're now attraction hogs. We'd rather go on a million more rides rather than go sit down and eat. So I think our touring might have changed. We'll see if that pops back up in the next couple months, but we'll see. What about yourself?
So the first one that came to mind is one that we haven't done yet. Is I'd like to eat at Tiffin's.
Okay.
At some point. That's just one. Like we always just wind up at Satuli Canteen or stuff at Animal Kingdom, and I know when they used to do like the dining package there for the show, it was actually a decent value. They had a prefix and stuff like that. So that one that just seems to have an interesting menu. I know we haven't done it yet. So that is one I'd like to do.
I believe I was talking with my brother-in-law, and he was like, "Oh, I went to this one restaurant in Animal Kingdom, and he couldn't think of the name." I'm like, Tusker House? And I totally forgot about Tiffin's, and that's definitely the restaurant he went to, because it's like, no, there was no characters in that one. So I've heard good things about it. And then there's basically all the sit-down restaurants that are associated with Animal Kingdom or Animal Kingdom Lodge. I definitely want to try out in the next couple of years and figure that out. All right, so my question to you is, and this is kind of going off of one of your ideas for the People Mover back in the day. And the question is, if you had to convert one ride in each park to a bar, which one would it be? Now, when you convert it, it's no longer a ride. So no People Mover where you can just put a bar on the ride vehicle and whatever.
Okay, so it's not adding like a
basically
bar
turns into a restaurant.
Okay.
So you're getting a cool setting, but you're losing a ride. So if you pick your favorite attraction, it's no longer an attraction.
Right,
because
my first thought for Magic Kingdom was Haunted Mansion, because the Haunted Mansion themed bar would be awesome.
Yes.
But then you lose
Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, okay.
So you got to balance the two. So you could do one park, you could do all four if you want to venture that into that, that world.
Let me think off the top of my head. So first one, Magic Kingdom. This is probably cheating, since that was the original intent of the restaurant, of the attraction, was to be in a restaurant, but I would do Tiki Room.
Okay.
I think that would be
cool.
That'd be a cool concept for a bar, and you could still probably keep some of the animatronics and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of cheating actually, because it's not really a ride. So I'll take it. Okay, that's a good one. I didn't even think about that, but that's a good answer.
All right, Epcot. I should just say Mission Space to get rid of Mission Space.
But then you're just spinning around and drinking all day.
That's no good. I don't know. I mean, maybe just because the version of the ride's so bad, but I think it could be cool to have a Figment, like Journey into Imagination themed bar. Okay. So I'll go with
I'm thinking I would have done Soarin', right? Because if I really want that like riding IMAX theater kind of thing, you can go to Flight of Passage and kind of get that, sensation and experience. Now you just got a place with bar with a giant TV screen that you can put any sort of sporting event or a movie or whatever, and getting an up close and kind of look at something while having an adult beverage. That's what I would pick for Epcot.
All right.
Hollywood Studios. It's a tough one, because there's not many attractions to pick from. First off,
can I do the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular?
So how would you convert that? It's just you just want to take that out of existence?
Basically, take it out and reconfigure the stands so it's seating and it's still sort of Indiana Jones themed and Tiki themed, or not Tiki themed, but like Society of Explorers and Adventurers themed and stuff like that. I know that's not really a ride. But I
would do the Frozen sing along. But because now it's a bar serving adult beverages, now you have to be 21 or older to enter. Let's say after 7:00 at night.
I was just going to say that it should be the Frozen sing along after dark.
Yeah, and then you get
during the day it's family friendly, but then
yes. So now you're picking up what I'm putting down, because the jokes there are kind of okay, there's a little bit of an adult joke kind of thrown in there.
Yeah.
Now you can get the full adult version of what Anna and Elsa were really thinking during the movie. So I think that would be kind of fun.
That's a good one. I like that
Like
one.
a dinner theater type of thing. So are we doing one for Animal Kingdom? Because I've got it.
I mean, you could just do some of the trails, right? You could
Just hang out.
hang out with the animals.
I would do the safari. I'm going to answer for you.
Oh, so you lose the safari.
You lose the safari, but you have to drive out to the bar, so you get a little bit of it, right? And then it's just basically a giant glass dome, kind of like Animal Kingdom Lodge, where you can wake up and have a cup of coffee, and there's a giraffe outside your door. You got a big giant bar, and animals just kind of wander around the bar, which probably might not be safe, but might be interesting.
They could just add that to Conservation Station. You take the train out to it. Stuff like
Even better, you get to keep the safari.
that. Yeah.
All right, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
All right.
I don't know what I would pick for Magic Kingdom, though. To me, that's a very, very tough one. I would almost want to pick Pirates, even though it's my all-time favorite ride.
I mean, that definitely would be a cool setting for a bar, for sure.
But I'm like, if I can go and sit down and spend more, like, how long is Pirates? It's like what, like a 10-minute ride?
Yeah, I was
12-minute
going to say
ride?
like 12 minutes, yeah.
If I can get longer inside that building and just hang out for like a couple hours, get the smells, you got to keep the music and the sounds. I think that would be really cool. And I would lose the attraction if I can just kind of hang out there and have a couple beers or grog or rum or whatever we want to be drinking. So those are the questions today. I like those. That was pretty good. It's just like anything else, because I was thinking maybe this could have been our Discord engagement question for this week, but you've got a good one coming up. But let's go over what people were talking about last week. We were thinking about ways to improve Dinoland USA and Animal Kingdom. Do we want to go over what the community said, or do you want to go over our ideas?
Why don't this week, let's start with the community.
Okay.
Since I think we shared a little bit of our ideas, but then we can expand on ours if it doesn't get covered enough.
Okay.
So we talked about two ways to do this. One was sort of still keep the theme of dinosaurs, but update the attractions that are there, especially the two smaller ones, or completely change out the theme and everything and redo the land, still having to fit in with the kind of the physical parameters of that area of the park. So keeping with the theme of dinosaurs, Miss Gina 5 said she loves Dinoland because she loves dinosaurs, but she feels there's certain dinosaurs that aren't kind of covered, specifically water dinosaurs. So she'd like to see some sort of like almost living seas type pavilion or attraction where you go underwater and they make it look like you're seeing, underwater dinosaurs and stuff like that, perhaps a simulator. But then it could even teach how they've evolved over time and became land animals, something like that. She said, just change Triceratops spins to be pterodactyls, and then that's good. And it said, finally, some sort of dark ride showing the different periods of dinosaur history. And with a fossil excavation Zen garden for the kids at the end. I kind of thought, though, you already have the boneyard for the kids. What I like the idea, though, of showing that it isn't, the dinosaur period was super long. Like a lot of these dinosaurs you think were like together were like millions of years apart and stuff. But maybe instead of a dark ride, maybe next to the boneyard, you could almost have something similar to like what they're doing with the Moana Journey of Water, like just sort of like a Zen garden area that everybody can sort of wander around and kind of you're walking through time through it. Just to kind of have another chill out area for people and stuff like that, but not replacing the boneyard.
I mean, if we're going to do just dinosaurs, right? Like I dig dinosaurs. I loved them as a kid. I don't mind keeping that aspect. Clean up dinosaur. Maybe it's not like you're racing back in time to go find, whatever and then race back. And that ride needs to be completely revamped. Whether it's kind of like, you travel back in time and you're just seeing things and just clean up, make it more exciting, or make it a ride where it's like Jurassic Park, you're running away from T-Rex type of things. Something that's more cohesive, I think would be really cool. I think I like the underwater aspect of things. Maybe you can kind of get rid of Cali River Rapids and kind of combine all that space and make an attraction. But you definitely have to get rid of Dino Land, like the carnival aspect of it. I think whatever you do, if you just scrap that part, you're probably...
I think pretty much everybody, even the people that, because there are, I'm kind of one of them. I appreciate the storytelling device that they put into that area.
Yep.
But even then, I think people
lost.
are like, but the the actual experience of it is not great.
No, for sure.
So the other ideas were for more around scrapping the dinosaur theme. Mama of Six shared one, which I hadn't seen too many other people saying, but was more focusing on northern lands. That, you know, we have sort of a lot of hot areas like Africa and Asia and stuff like that. What we don't have are like North America and like up in Canada and things like that. So she was saying having a land that shows, you know, pine trees and fake snow and stuff like that, and could reference. She mentioned a lot of the movies that they did back in the day, whether it's Call of the Wild, White Fang, Brother Bear, stuff like that. And that you could have a simulated sled sequence like in Call of the Wild as a ride and stuff like that. And just have cold weather areas and you know, could be kind of a climate controlled area. So she mentioned going as far as having like polar bears and stuff like that.
To me, this is my favorite one. I never really thought about like, yes, Animal Kingdom's missing cold weather animals. Obviously we're in Florida, it's tough to do, but like, yeah, you could kind of fake that, I guess.
So I thought that was interesting. I know, you know, some of those things, like obviously I live in New York. We have like zoos that have most of those types of animals and stuff too. But yeah, obviously we don't have polar bears. And then also if you're from the South, that's not type of animals you know a lot about or see a lot. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the last one, I kind of lumped a few things together because these were probably the two most popular ideas. Ryan W. brought them up. He said either South America or Australia. I think a lot of people have talked about South America. That was one idea I had. You know, obviously you can fit a number of popular IP into there. It's an area that's not covered yet, and you could do a lot with like birds and reptiles and stuff like that are in that area that don't need access to the savannah. So I think that could fit well. A lot of people did like the idea of Australia. Obviously a lot of unique animals there. I did think, is there a lot of IP that fits into that? The only one I could think of was Rescuers Down Under. But then somebody else pointed out that actually Finding Nemo takes place in Australia. And you have the show there already, so you could probably just bring that theme down, and kind of go to Australia that way. So I think those were some of the ideas that were brought up by the community.
I dig it. I think the only thing that I personally would want to see is building out on the idea of the mythical creatures, because the logo for Animal Kingdom still has a dragon in it, right? So I'd love to expand on that, and because now you don't have to use IP anymore, because a dragon's just cool all by itself. You don't need a movie, right, about a dragon. So you have the dragons. I know some of the original art had like unicorns and all that other. You could just make some really cool, fun stuff with that, and I think you could easily have. I don't think you need a roller coaster, but like you can have some dark rides with, like, you could change the dinosaur ride to be kind of like you're exploring. The story is you're exploring a cave, right? So you go into the ride. The queue is like walking into the cave, and maybe there's some gems or glittering gold on the ground. And the ride itself is you're exploring the mythical dinosaur, and you come into the vault, and all of a sudden the dinosaur wakes, the dragon wakes up, and now you're racing to scoop up treasure and escape, and he's chasing you and stuff like that. I think that would be kind of neat, and kind of like you use like the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway technology and the way that you kind of sequence the different rooms. I think that would be really cool. And then you add, a nice quiet dark ride, a Navi River Journey. I think wasn't the original unicorn in like a kind of like a watery boat type of thing, and it was like a grotto.
So the unicorn was supposed to be at the Unicorn Grotto. I think it was at the middle of a hedge maze though. There's supposed to be that type of concept around it. Yep. I think there was some sort of water ride that went like kind of around the.
That's what I kind of remember from
good side as well.
So that's kind of what I would want to do. I would want to lean on that a little bit. I don't want to shoehorn, as much as I joke that we should put in some other IP or anything, tie it like strictly like Pandora. I think if we just kind of keep the IP out, I think this is the only place I would say let's not taint Animal Kingdom with more IP if possible.
Yeah. One thing you could do Rod, I thought of it, you could either extend down Asia and make Southeast Asia, or it could just fit into your mythical land, is that you could take the dinosaur ride in the Jeeps, have Shang-Chi, where they take the Jeeps into the land of Ta Lo that had all the kind of different animals and creatures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that I think could be a relatively easy overlay, get some more Marvel.
We want to shove Marvel into Animal Kingdom. Again, I prefer they wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
but I'd be definitely okay if there was a Marvel ride. That'd be fun. Yeah. Like I'm down for it. I'm down to have that fun there. let's see. We have next week's engagement. Phil, what did you pick for next week? This was up to
so
you.
Next week engagement, this was something that someone suggested on the boards as well, is what pavilion would you add to World Showcase? Obviously, this topic comes up quite often.
All the time.
There's been a lot of rumors of Brazil, I think, being added. There were other countries that were going to be added at the beginning that never got built. So you could pick one of those, or you could pick a completely different country that you would like to see represented, and kind of keeping in mind that if they're going to put something in, it's going to have, probably have to have some IP tied into it, but certainly something that would have good food, some sort of attraction, some sort of merchandise, like some sort of entertainment, that would fit as a full pavilion.
I don't think we can have Russia at this point, right?
Yeah, that would be a little tough. Yeah.
That'll be a little, especially with the international guest or cast member thing. Travel's a little risky at this point. That's a good one
planned to be at some point, though. You can find artist renderings of
the Russian it's a major country, right? It's
for sure.
Main part of history.
With very distinct architecture and stuff like that, for sure. So.
It would definitely be neat if the geopolitical
was a little different.
Situation was a little bit different. Yeah, for sure. We are kind of at the show, Phil. As always, we either threaten to go over or we're pushing segments back to next week. We were going to do attractionality with the Tiki Room this week. Mm-hmm. And this is one of my favorite attractions. I was looking forward to it. But I think we're going to end the show here, Phil, because we're at the 55-ish minute mark. And I think we've done a pretty good job bringing people through our crazy wanderings of our brains. If you guys have any top fives that you would like to see, make sure you tag us on social media. Where can they find us, Phil?
You can find us everywhere, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or our YouTube channel. We are all at the DBC Pod, and of course our Discord server. Always find the link to that in our show notes.
And I'm attempting to put things on TikTok. Don't follow us. We're on there at TikTok, but it's just basically me cutting the show down into like 30-second segments of stuff. I don't know if I have enough time to make like 6 TikToks and then put them out every single day during the week. So don't rely on me that when it's reliable, we're going to start promoting it as, please follow us and what have you. But it's not reliable just yet. I have to figure out how to make it look good. Because right now I just take the video and I dump it into TikTok, and it's just like landscape mode in a platform that's meant for portrait mode, and it doesn't look perfect just yet. So I'm a little OCD on that one. So next week, I think we have to hit attractionality because we've been skipping it for a couple of weeks and we're behind now. So we'll make sure we hit this. Let's make a note, Phil. Let's hit this at the middle of the show.
Okay. Yeah, we'll move it up.
So make sure we get to it. And then we'll go from there. So make sure you hop on Discord and join us in the discussion of this week's engagement about World Showcase. I think the second week that we've done this has had a lot more engagement than the first week. And this just keeps on growing. And it's a lot of cool Disney discussion, kind of everybody's spitballing, and it just doesn't last for one day. And sometimes it dovetails into completely other random things, which is a lot of fun. So it's a good conversation starter. So hop in. We have a couple new people in the community. So if you're listening, with a couple people have popped on and said, I've been a listener, I finally joined Discord. Make sure you finally join Discord. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you're downloading the episodes and giving us 5-star reviews on iTunes if that's your preferred method of listening. And again, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, everybody.
Take care, all.